And we're live. Thanks everyone for your patience there. Some technical difficulties. Appreciate you hanging tight. Thrilled today to have John McCahan here. John and I connected probably just over a couple of years ago, chatting about customer experiences. And I thought it was, and John reached back out a couple weeks back to keep the conversation going. And one of the things that struck me is that in a lot of the conversations we've been having lately in property management, we've been talking about how we need inspiration, ideation, ideas on how to solve this simplification of resident experience or customer experience and making it simplified and making it centralized and optimized. And so what great kind of like almost like serendipitous opportunity for John to reach out and chat about it. John was former EVP, VP leader in the customer experience at FTD Flowers. And if you all remember, know FTD, and FTD obviously one of the world's largest flower delivery, or I'll say delicates delivery and distribution. And I think one of the things that I remember our previous conversation a couple years back was all around the response time and the time to respond and the data orientation around all the things that you guys did from a customer experience perspective that helped you kind of get budget, I remember at the time you were putting in a new system, I think, if I remember correctly, but get budget, how to get budget, how to get stakeholder alignment, how to be able to kind of execute on all these programs that support the organizational relationship. Because like maintenance or the resident experience or retention oriented businesses, like there's a repeatability to the flower delivery business. And if you do it wrong, they go somewhere else. And guess what? That's the same thing that happened in all the businesses that we've been talking to lately. So in these retention type businesses, this customer experience, operations, and execution are so critical to maintaining, keeping, and driving revenue and expanding revenue within your customer base. And that's kind of why I'm so excited to have this chat today. Because one of the things that we want to make sure we do on the show is bring in ideas and concepts and lessons and learnings from other industries. Because a lot of the problems we're solving today or struggling with today have been solved before by somebody else. And so this is an opportunity for us to port over some learnings from John's experience, talk about customer experience as it drives retention, revenue. And I mean, and you consider yourself a revenue leader, right? So the revenue attachment to customer experience is something that that was your career. And so talking about those sort of metrics, I think one other thing that's special to me to talk about is John was a US veteran. And so the discipline and operations orientation around all those things that require diligence and discipline and repeatability are things that we talked about the first time we chatted up. And hopefully we'll touch a little about that today and how that all relates to execution, operations, and customer experiences. So everyone that's listening, we talk about getting to hell yes. So getting to hell yes is the premise of why do people, digging in and double clicking on why people change, because change is really inconvenient, it's uncomfortable, it's disruptive, and it's really unnatural to seek change. It's more natural to resist change and keep doing what we were doing today. But it simply doesn't work when you've got to go and have an external force or something happens that creates change within our world, which puts us in a buying position. The trick is, how do we find those buyers so we can begin to sell to them faster? Because they're seeking problems, they've already considered alternatives, and they're rolling into this sort of scenario. And as always, this is brought to you by IRCX. IRCX is AI remote maintenance and triage software. And inspection software. So if you're going to take a look at a problem before you dispatch that truck, Iris can help you figure that out. We can do it much quicker, faster, cheaper, and figure out all those approvals and all those things that you got to solve upstream prior to dispatching that truck. So, and if you're listening on LinkedIn Live, add any comments in there. Those are great to kind of catch, or YouTube Live. We'll get both of those during the show. We'll bring those up if they make sense for the conversation. And if you're listening afterwards, add any comments, and both John will get pinged on that. We'll be able to join the conversation. And on YouTube, on Apple, or on Spotify, hit the subscribe link. It always makes it easier for people to find us. That's the preamble, and I hope I got everybody interested and excited about this conversation today. John, again, a bit about yourself, your background, how you got, as high as how you got the roles that you gotten into from a customer experience perspective, and then what's the problem that you principally seek to solve when you go into organizations?
Yeah. Okay. Well, yeah, thanks, Guillermo. This is going to be a lot of fun. And so a little bit about me. I'm a transformation guy, and it started at a young age. I will tell you, I'm not a big guy, But on my high school football team, I was the only one that wanted to change our defense. And they made me captain. Even though I was a safety, I had to run up in front and stand shorter than everybody and explain why we were going to do the defensive set that we were going to do. And then call the audibles from the field as loud as I could yell them out. And this is
from a safety position.
From the safety position in coal mining, rural Pennsylvania. So it started out that way. I went to college at Penn State. Went in the military, and in the military, my first assignment was the worst performing platoon that there was. And that gave me this why me. And it probably took 20 years in my career after almost 10 full years in the military and then out in the civilian world. Why was I always getting hired into the challenging situation? And it dawned on me in self-awareness with maturity it's the solve the problem and move forward. And I realized that's sort of what is my makeup is solve the problem, move forward, evaluate what you got and move forward. So my background's taken me from leading customer experience in telemarketing and banking, automotive industry globally. Avon Health and Beauty was my first real big transformation. There was just a nightmare going in, but so much fun. And we saw the result at the end of bringing the brand back a little bit. I worked in manufacturing a little bit, transforming an aged 150-year-old manufacturing company. And then FTD found me when they were in bankruptcy as part of needing to transform. Went to FTD with, this is going to be hard, John. The flower industry is unique. Getting there and realizing that the pieces and players were in place. It was just building a strategy around what do we fix first? How do we go about attacking the problem, get to new technology, one source of the truth, technology or to bind it all, true data, and then execution, process improvement, and then eventually AI. And that was the process of transforming what was a business that took 2,500 agents during our peak holiday of Valentine's Day and an 89% contact rate, which means for every 100 orders, 89 people had to call or email and say, I got a problem, I need help. Getting that down under 20, down to 17, at 17% contact rate, which is manageable and allows you to solve the true problems versus answering what I called the dumb questions of like, when is my flowers going to ship? Where are my flowers? They're supposed to be delivered today. How to get around that, move forward. So it was my first opportunity at going in to a transformation where nothing been really done. And I got to evaluate, understand, learn, try, fail, adapt, bring in technology, and then see it to the end, which was when we did sell the company to another flower company. But it was that exciting 5 years of just really diving into a transformation and learning that it takes 3 years to change culture. And that strategy has to shift, and that you have to be agile, and you have to be willing to fail, and you have to let your people have responsibility and let them fail too. And that's me in a nutshell.
Very interesting. I mean, particularly when you talk about the 3 years to change thing, but then ultimately, and for scale, I should be curious. How many roughly service requests are, you call them contacts. So maybe for the audience, what's a contact? We'll start there.
Well, a contact is when a customer or a vendor or a local florist reaches out to the company for a question, help, or assistance. And so in those contacts, typically are very spiky seasonality in the flower industry by Valentine's Day, Mother's Day, Christmas, and funeral season. But about 2.7 million a year. Okay. So you're looking at in a month, anywhere from 20,000 to 100,000, depending on what month of the year it is. So.
Yep. And so an 89% touch. So, I mean, and for connection I'm going to guess here that means that for the you said 2 million, 2.7 million, 3 million contacts a year, you're going to have like 2.8 of them are going through the contact center.
Yeah.
When you started there.
Yeah.
Okay. So there's a lot of volume. And then you got down to 22.
Yeah, we actually brought it down to 17%.
17%.
So we brought it well under the million. we moved it from a predominant phone and email situation to across SMS text,
Mhm.
live interaction, self-service with AI, phone calls drastically decreased, live
Mhm.
chat increased. Live chat's easy. And then
Yep.
what I like to call asynchronization communication, which text is a
Mhm.
good example, where you fire off your question and you don't expect an immediate answer, but as long as
Yep.
it's reasonable, and that's easy to manage from a service perspective because customer expectations are probably watching a game on TV and they're asking and you answer and it goes back and
Yep.
forth, and you can move that customer into a different channel if they'd like, hey, I'm going to send you an email with all the details, or hey, this might be easier if we get on the phone, can you do that in a minute? And
Yeah.
that agent bringing that customer into the right place. The exciting stuff is just how to be smart about using AI and where it works
Yeah.
and where it doesn't.
Well, and a lot of struggles that we have are around the customer's inability to articulate their needs.
Yeah.
And I got to think in the flower world, it's the same thing.
Yeah.
So how do you manage that? Like if the, and I'll to back up, like if you want AI is wonderful, but if you don't know what you're talking about or you don't know how to say what you need, you're going to get a negative outcome. So like we're feeling this is the same thing all over again, right? So how are you managing that? How did you manage that?
Well, in the people standpoint is a curious interaction through the agent.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
starting out with the obvious, or, Guillermo, are you calling about the flower order you placed last Friday? And if you
Right.
say yes,
Okay.
now that's narrowed down. But if you say no, then it's like, okay, well, what are you calling about? And diving
Right.
into it. And then teaching AI to do the same thing. And
Mhm.
also teaching AI and agents to understand customer preference. So
Right.
each customer has a different preference. Like a flower store may want to use instant messaging to communicate with FTD because they're busy and they have people walking into their shop and they're building flower bouquets, and they want to do it asynchronously. Or a
Mhm.
customer may be on the phone standing outside the funeral home with, I don't know where I can't find my flowers and I'm embarrassed because this is my sister and I sent a big white
Yeah.
bouquet. Where is it? And our
Yeah.
agent's like, oh, it's there. Like, this is what it looks like, and it should have a label on it. But it's getting that real world interaction, and most of the complex things are solved by a human, like, and they have to be.
Yeah.
Like, it's going to take a long time for AI to solve complex human issues.
Yeah. How do you find like so that's great. So you got a lot of variability in the final product. So I mean, I guess first of all, the channel. So you got kind of like your basic logistical questions,
Yeah.
and then you've got service questions. So the logistical questions, people seem to be able to figure that out. Like there's change your plane ticket, where are my flowers, the pizza tracker, all that kind of stuff. That seems to be well on its way to being solved, right? Does that get us to a point around where do you start cleaving off the complex part of it? Like in your
So
mind, what becomes complex and what becomes mundane
complex
or repeatable?
becomes like, that's not what I ordered. That's not what I wanted. And it becomes
Hmm.
a reaction to the purchase, right? And
Hmm.
when we talk about customer loyalty, the biggest important thing is not selling. It's the post-purchase interaction,
Yeah.
making sure that customer is satisfied with was it what they expected? Did it happen the way they wanted it to happen? And did it blow their socks off? And that part of when you need a human, how do you add a human in to interact, and how do you anticipate
Yeah.
what those problems are, right? Flower industry, the problem could be the end of peony season and half the peonies are going to be brown and rotting. Why are we still selling them? But let's prep in the service side, because it's going to get ugly when people call and say, my mom got brown edge peonies. Why, what are you going to do about it? And
Yeah.
how to, one, solve the problem in the real time with the agent and
Yeah.
make the customer happy, whether it's new bouquet, a refund, a partial refund, or then go back to the business and tell them, hey, business, here's the data. We need
Hmm.
to shorten peony season from 6 weeks to 4 weeks, and here's why. Because of the refunds, because of the customer dissatisfaction. And yeah, it's less sales, but in the end, it's higher revenue because they're happier customers who buy again.
Yeah. And so when you get into this is very interesting. So we talk about like the product loop, right? And
Mhm.
the product loop, you don't if you don't get obviously, it's kind of the convention that the customer that doesn't tell you doesn't share with you that have gone wrong is the kind of like, that's the worst kind of outcome
Yes.
possible, right? I had this one post a few weeks back about, a good buddy, I'll put it this way, a good buddy of mine, actually a bunch of friends that run restaurants. And, my wife is the kind of person that if the food is terrible, she won't send the food back, but she'll complain to me about it. And I'm like, well, you're just like spreading the pain around, like send the food back. And a buddy of mine that owns a restaurant, he's like, you have to insist that people send the food back.
Yeah.
He's like, if you don't send the food back, you're hurting the restaurant, right? Because they don't know that something wasn't done correctly. They have no opportunity to improve it and do it better, right? So it's kind of interesting because there's actually a lot of, while we have, solutions in place to deflect and to kind of mitigate customer responses, but we still want that customer response, because recognizing the customer is in a fail state and they want to get to a proper success state. They really want to be there. They don't want to actually do this call. So the fact they have to call in is actually prompting, a negative experience with that brand, with that experience. Another thing that's interesting right now is that a lot of folks are talking about brand as a competitive wedge. And I don't know if they totally understand what that means, because like we actually teeing up a conversation with another one of these around brand and then operations. So now FTD is a massive brand. It means something to people. So how did you, I'll kind of get into your transformation experience. How did you figure out which problems to fix first? And then how did you get stakeholder alignment around those problems to fix first?
Yeah. So I think, I'm going to step a little bit into the fact that as the leader of customer service, customer experience, is to insert myself into the room where the decisions are made. Throughout my career, I've not been in that room where I've had to fight my way in or get an invite or be a partial guy in the room. It never works because nobody focuses on the customer, but getting into the room and then understanding what's driving the business and the problems. And somebody may be saving money in logistics, right? They're saving money. It's a huge win. But the reality is that win produces a bad customer experience. It produces repetitive refund rates. It produces product failure that nobody knows about. And that and ends up being a costly example. Saving pennies, losing dollars, and nobody knows.
Yeah.
Until you look at the data holistically across the entire organization. So a couple things for me to get there that I've done through leadership, and this goes back to special operations teams on how you build a team of military operators is there's a primary, there's a secondary, there's a tertiary, and there's a quadrilateral. Everybody's trained in something else and can overlap and use their strengths to do something. And this is across every infantry line unit and logistics unit I was in. And doing that in the business world of teaching people how to do other things becomes powerful. And I'll use the example during Valentine's Day, making the tech team work in the back end of customer service, where they're working on what's happening in the back end. And all of a sudden these tech guys, so software developers are like, how come I have to click through 5 different screens to solve this? You give them a minute to just let it sink in. And then they're like, when we get done with this Valentine's Day, I'm going to rewrite this so that we only are on one screen. And
you make them eat their food, eat the dog food.
Yeah. And you do make the marketing people sit in social media and get beat up all day long by customers who are having bad experience. Because people don't reach out when they're happy, right? They don't just reach out and go, I love you. You're an amazing company. Again.
Yeah.
Some do, but most don't. And it's to beat you up because my mother's flowers didn't show up for her birthday, but you sent me an email that they were delivered, and I called her and she said, what flowers? And I look like an idiot. And now here I am. My mother said that she thinks I'm a terrible son. And now you got this emotion involved, and this is a flower industry, but you can put this into all kinds of things, healthcare. You can put it in anything. And the companies that have gotten good at it are the companies that are ahead. Like I had a doctor's appointment this morning, and it was really funny because on the way there, I'm sitting in the driver's seat drinking coffee, or in the passenger seat drinking coffee, reading my phone. I get this alert. We're running 15 minutes behind because, and they told me because of the snow, people were late in, and it's going to take an extra 15 minutes. We notice you're on the way, because I was in the app. We noticed they could be here, but just please be patient. Check in through your app.
They can see your location. Oh,
yeah,
wow.
I have an app where I get to see my charts, my test results, my appointments, but they knew I was about a mile and a half away. I was in traffic, but it allowed me to finish my coffee in the car, walk in. It ended up being 5 minutes late, but we ended up ending 5 minutes early. And that whole interaction was, I'm not sitting there mad because I don't know what's going on. I know what's going on. I'm in traffic. I know it was snowing. The company and I are on the same page. We're communicating and we get it. And that part in the world of service, I think about that in service because, let's face it, shit happens, right? And when you communicate in advance by the things that is the company versus just leaving that customer hanging, it allows them as humans to go, oh man, I get it.
The anxiety comes down. The anxiety comes down. The
anxiety comes down and they go, wow, they trust me. And it's the data we have. Like, right. Like as an Amazon customer, we know they know everything about us. Like that. Yeah. I don't want to say that name Alexia because the thing back there is going to go off. I forgot to turn it off, but it will tell me things like, hey, I just noticed this is available on sale. Do you like to purchase it? And I just think it's fascinating because it's never at the right time, but it's like they get it. Yep. They have the data and they're using it. And we as companies can use that same data to interact with our customer in the way that customer likes to be interacted with. Like shoot them a text if they prefer text.
Yeah. You just talked about three things that I hope no one takes lightly or hears or mishears them or overlooks them. So leadership. So we talk a lot about the leadership gap between corporate and field, right? And you just talked about bringing the designers to the ops floor, right? Bring them an ops and watch them use their products being used. So not to be lost in the fact that leaders that are pounding the table for improvements in the field, if they don't go to the field, it's hard to understand what the field's doing. So site walks, work on the floor in operations. You mentioned marketing, leaders of marketing absorbing, spending time and absorbing what's happening on Reddit or what's happening in Google reviews or on the social media side of things, right? And he also just talked about cross-functional training, right? The platoon model. So there's prime, secondaries, tertiary. So cross-functional training of how to do things so that you can kind of shift and close gaps that are emerging, and you're not too vulnerable. We also talked about upstream resolutions, right? Your conversation around taking a look at when the patient story, but I had never really actually thought of them understanding where you're at, right, and how that improves, because it's two ways. Because if you're late, it screws things up, and if they're late, it screws things up. So let's acknowledge that, put technology together that notifies both sides of the conversation, because everybody just wants to be there with less waiting,
right?
So and that all driven by technology. So not to be lost in just kind of casual conversation. Those 4 points I think are. Oh, then one more thing, transparency, and real-time transparency, right? So using technology to enable transparency, having the corporate folks do the operations, see the operations work being done, cross-functional trainings, people can plug gaps when you need to plug gaps. These are all these are not just flower problems or medicine problems or health problems. This is the operations world or the field versus the corporate. I always I always make reference to this kind of image I remember from watching World War II movies as a kid, and it's all the leaders of the Allied armies standing on this giant map room and pushing armies around, right, with big huge shuffleboard sticks, as though that's consequential, right? Oh, it's going to move an army from Dunkirk to to Nice, and they're just going to slide it like that, and that's how easy it works, right? just doesn't work that way in real life, right?
It doesn't work that way at all. As a paratrooper, I'm picturing like, you're on the ground, you parachuted in, you don't know where any of your soldiers are, you don't know where your leader is, and all of a sudden like two dudes show up and go, what are we supposed to, are you in charge? And you take a stick and you draw on the ground and you hear noise and you go, okay, in World War II, it was, you hear the German guns, you draw on the ground and go, we're going to go get those Germans. And because my other military philosophy in life is transparency. If everybody knows who, what, when, where, why, and what if everybody knows that in the entire company, they'll all make good decisions. So like in World War II, those paratroopers that are so split up and don't know what's going on are like, there's a Canadian paratrooper beside two Americans that aren't in the same unit, but yet they all know we're going to go kill Germans.
Because they all know the same plan.
They all know the same thing. And they understand the timeline, they understand the goal, and they know the chain of command. They've all practiced how to do things numerous times. And so they know when someone says you're on point, this is what you're going to do. And and we're going to go do this and we're going to hopefully be right. And then along the way, there's test and fail and back up and adapt and adjust. And that's how business works, actually. So it's in the field, and it's those guys pushing the maps. It's making sure that that room understands it. Now, sometimes I dramatically would go into the C-suite with like, the data is like, this is where we're screwed up and we're dying, when maybe it's not really that bad because my team can handle it and they're used to chaos and it's no big deal. But creating the drama around the chaos of, look what, somebody in marketing did a brilliant idea, like pay for shipping and get free flowers. That is the most confusing thing to every customer in the world. And when they call in and ask the customer service rep who never heard of it, and they're like, wait a minute, you're paying for shipping, but you're getting free flowers? Like, no. You're getting free shipping with your flowers. And everybody's confused, and then nobody understands what's going on. And marketing's like, this is such a great idea. Nobody does it. Like, no, it's a terrible idea if you don't communicate it or advertise it or get everybody on board.
Now, you also talked about getting in the room. Yeah. And CX is, because it's post-transaction, it falls in the same box as all operations. Generally, operations can't get in the room. How did you get in the room?
Through data. So making sure that the important data sets that tell the story, and then sharing that up to the CEO with, here's the real answer. Whether it's contact rate, meaning how many times are people contacting us, response rates, getting alignment with people like the CFO, because minutes and pennies is like the biggest thing, minutes and cents. Getting the CFO to align to understand what operational costs are and why 2 touches is worse than 1 touch, and how to talk to the CFO to get an ally there. Also, the pain that the CEO sees, because now in the world of LinkedIn and Facebook, anybody can find a CEO's name and then send them their sob story of, this is what happened to me in my service industry, and I'm upset at you, CEO. And some CEOs ignore it. I've seen people ignore it. I know people that then overreact and like, what's going on? I want to report on this event. And then guys like me saying it's a one-off. It just happened one time, giving them free everything for life, and they're all happy, but it's a one-off and we're not going to change our process and procedures. Or it is a problem in the company and we need to rethink how we operate and how we function. But it's that getting into the room is tough. Like, because I've in my past been kicked, like you get invited in, you tell the great story of the win, or you share the loss, and then you get kicked out and you don't get back in until something else fails. But it's getting.
But you talked about financial literacy, right? Yeah. A lot of op folks, just the way that their career arc is that they get financial literacy about their business secondhand. Yeah, like it's not firsthand, and so you got in the room by speaking the CFO's language. CFO is always looking for partners because they're often they're like the CFO, right? And so like the CFO is trying to find business partners that are aligned with what they're trying to achieve, which is a bigger margin and all better, bigger margin, bigger, faster margin. Do that for a CFO, you're making happy all day long. And you're talking about revenue, you're talking about operational expenses, you want to save money and growing out revenue customers and, reducing the make good spend, reducing the upset customers and, whatever. And so now that you're powered with data, you've got executive alignment and stakeholder alignment with the things that you want to do. You've encouraged and endorsed the operational perspective or experience for everyone that's making these decisions, because ultimately it's a logistics company.
Yeah.
Right. It's logistics with a perishables logistics company, and delicate perishables, much more than that. Right. And so like how it's all done is really the nuts and bolts of the company. And you had both retailers and B2C and B2B. Right.
Yeah.
So it's not too unlike a lot of other businesses that are out there.
Right.
And so you've gone and then let's talk about AI for a second here. So the problems that you're seeking to solve around optimization, how can I drive a higher recurring revenue or more repeatable revenue, bankable revenue? Because there's a shareholder or an investor out there that wants to see a predictable return. And of course, you're going to have peaks and valleys in different sort of seasons, but they want repeatability out of those seasons. They want a bigger share of wallet out of those customers that they're committing to FTD or whatever the retailer is. And so how do you begin to take the data that you're collecting? And let's imagine when you started, you didn't have the data, the systems weren't there. So how did you start? People will often counter, that's great, but chicken and egg, I don't even know how many work orders I've got, or I got more work orders than I can manage because I haven't closed a work order for 7 years. Right. So how do you begin to start shaping the data so you can get into the room?
It's those so back a couple questions ago, it's what are the easy things to hit first? And it's the understanding where data is inconsistent by system and department, and understanding that okay, we have a problem here. This system has, I'll use an example. We at FTD, we had cases. And so you might have one customer, 2 transactions. Each transaction had 11 different cases. And it gets really confusing with all these tickets and cases that are created. They need a solution where there's one source of the truth. And so that was pushing the IT people to where's the data lake? And when IT people say, I don't know what the data lake is. I'm okay, here, let me teach you what a data lake is. One source of the truth that we can all go grab, one entry point. I learned this at Avon. We had so many different entry points that one lipstick on a specific SKU of a specific color might have 7 different descriptions and places where it is. And if somebody didn't update all 7 in all 7 different systems,
right,
then you're operating off of, is it tested on animals? No, it is tested on animals. And it depends on where you look, and it's all different. It's taking those different data points and saying, until we fix the data, we can't give any information. And so creating that priority, where for me at FTD and getting everybody else involved, was number one, we needed an accurate source of the truth and an accurate way to capture it. So that source of truth data and order management system had to happen before anything else I changed. I couldn't bring in new technology because there were 7 different systems we'd have to interact with. So let's get the back end order management system to one. Now we can interact with it, but it may take a year. So how to teach my team that okay, this is going to get better in 18 months, but it's going to take 18 months because the tech team has to get everything in one place. Then they have to get one single order management system, so that then once all that's done, we can overlay better communications. We can drop AI into it and start extrapolating good data and good insights so that we can be proactively ahead. And until that date, here's how we get through it. But there's our end state of the happiness of the future, or the light at the end of the tunnel, and how to how to try to float to that accurate date. I believe accurate dates, for example, when I signed with my new technology, because of implementation and back end things, we signed the contract in January for a new customer service, CRM, and communications tool. But we weren't launching until the end of October. And when somebody asked me, well, when are you going to launch it? I said October 25th. and nobody paid attention until we actually launched on October 25th, which from
Right.
the day I said that till the day we launched, that was my sole focus in life of
Yeah.
we're going to
100%.
launch on the date I said, because everybody's expecting it, and we're not going to create an environment. Oh, we pushed it back. And every time somebody would tell me push back a couple of weeks, I would stand on their desk and scream and say, no, we're not pushing back. We're going to execute on that date.
Yeah. So, I mean, and for those I think the other thing that to take away is you often also hear this from ops folks is that they're unwilling to put their hand up.
Yeah.
So you put your hand up, called out what wasn't working. You got in the room, you got the data, the funding, because it's not free to do this stuff.
Right.
You took a chance, right? Because you saw something was wrong that you called out as being wrong. And then you got conviction around that and you got support, implement the technology and the path forward. I mean, did you think that we can go from 89% to 17%?
I knew we could get down to 25. I knew
25.
because other perishable goods companies were doing it. And I knew that was a benchmark that we could get to. My life at the past three companies, everybody calls me a sandbagger. You overexceeded, John. And I'm like, no, I'm just being realistic. And I'm not going to overshoot the goal. I'm not going to tell you that we're going to overshoot it because that's too risky.
Yeah.
I learned that.
Well, especially since you know that like the optimized number was the 17, but you don't go live at optimization.
Right.
You go live, you stabilize. And so you slowly go from the 89 to the 17, but you don't get there after day one. But you know, it's a journey, right? And so you optimize.
Every year after bankruptcy, we initially just the first things changed. We dropped contact rate by 33% the first few months. And then it was like, well, next year you're gonna have to beat that. I'm like, I will.
Yeah.
Because I know, like I can run this for 3 years, but when we were running it in the fourth and fifth year of 33% reduction each year, just getting better and better at what we were doing and utilizing technology to get there, it really made sense. And I know it was always that fear of like, we're competing against ourselves of getting better. And there's going to come a time where we just can't get any more efficient. And that's where AI came along for that final year that helped us get another drop. Was just the smart use of how to use AI smartly in our business and find the right vendors and partners to do it.
And then then you get into the AI world, right? So you've done the replatforming of the kind of enterprise architecture, built that up, deployed that, stabilized that, and then now you're in the AI world. There are companies that like that feel the pressure to do AI work right now, but haven't done the stuff that you did ahead of time. What kind of advice do you give them?
Find a small place to start so that you can test in a petri dish. Like a couple military phrases we used to use was fail fast, fail early, fail often. And what it really means is just test in really small cases everything, like how an assault a target, like a ship on shore. You just practice it over and over and figure out all the failure points. And then you go, okay, now we can attack 10 ships on shore at a dock. We can do it this way. That idea of failing and understanding where the right place to start. So for me, us utilizing AI, there were some internal thought cases, how to QA, how to make it with the agent. But I remember distinctly, I got a call that we got told, oh yeah, hey, we're doing away with self-service. And so doing away with some of our self-service functions was going to increase contacts by 20%. We're going to get a ton of calls. We don't have the people to answer them. It's going to be ugly. And I got I pay you to solve the problem. Well, I happened to be talking to an AI company for a long time that guaranteed me they could get live in 30 minutes. And I was like, no, you can't. Well, I called them that day and said, can you go live in 30 minutes? And they said, it was a Friday. And they said, yeah, Monday morning, let's make it happen. We went live on a certain number of phone calls and it worked. And then we went bigger live on inbound phone calls where this AI sorted the call. So it acted like an IVR, but it was much smarter. And then it also routed people to the right person so that you did like a florist call the consumer line, the consumer agent goes, oh, I got to get you a florist specialist. Hang on while I get you. Meanwhile, there's holds and there's tie-ups. Like let AI do that. And then let AI answer the simple questions. I see your package is due out for delivery today by 9 a.m. Is that good? Yeah, thanks. Hang
Mhm.
up. Like it
Yeah.
becomes this AI solves the problem. So now we're sitting on a 15% improvement, like 5 days after the self-service went away. And then it got,
Wow.
John, you panicked. Why'd you panic? Look how great it is. I'm like, well, it's only great because we brought in AI to solve it. And
Yeah.
we really should have a 35% drop. And we'll get there. But this, you put us in a tough situation, and we luckily had a partner that I'd already been evaluating that was a new AI startup, and I didn't believe them when they told me they could launch in 30 minutes, and they literally launched in the morning, which was pretty cool.
Interesting. Wow. I mean, it's a positioning that we're starting to adopt is live in one day, and we do that with intentionality because other products take 5, 6, 7, 8 months
Yeah,
to
yeah,
deploy, and so we've now got pricing packages that are easy to buy. And we're pretty vocal about the fact that hey, like we probably don't either of us know how much you're going to use this, so let's make it a fair exchange of value. We'll get you up and running. You start using it. We'll pay. We'll have a base fee and then a consumption based fee, and it's going to be it's going to be cheaper than a team lunch. And we're going to get the proof out there, and then get you rolling with momentum because like we have a mutual interest in this being successful. So we're working together on your project, your to do, to be successful. And so as long as we agree on what needs to be true for this to be successful, then everything else sorts itself
yeah,
out. Like we know where that we know the hill to take. Going back to the military expression, right? And
right.
so if we all know what that is, we communicate early and often and upfront, then we can all work independent. Because then I think what happens when you do that is you liberate the leadership and the people in the field from being micromanaged.
Right.
Because they have freedom to make the best decision. Because most people are intelligent. Most people choose the right decisions when they have the right information. And so if you'd say we're going to go that way, and I don't know how you're going to get there, but that's where we got to get to by Sunday, and then figure it out. And that's where you get a chance to see how smart people are.
And the smart people were there. Like going into a bankrupt company, I think somebody told me right away, they're like, you're going to have to fire everybody and bring in your own team. And I remember saying, no, I don't. Like, let me just meet and understand who's there. Turns out every single one of the key leadership players was hungry to do better, wanted improvement, needed a leader who fought for them. Finding that out, rearranging a few of their responsibilities, and all of a sudden they're a high-performing team. And that high-performing team had knowledge. They had been there. They understand the history. Then it isn't a bunch of new guys coming in going, oh, you all suck and we're new and we're going to fix it. That, to me, that never works. The truth is, okay, I know you make good decisions at the time that they were made. It's just that now they may not be good decisions right now, and let's figure out how to move forward and change. And then that, like you said, giving people the opportunity to make decisions, take risk, fail on a small scale, and move forward. Then by letting them do that and focusing on the future and the fix, and that's, I think, at the beginning we talked about problem solving is, well, let's solve the problem together and move forward and not really dwell on the failure. Like if it didn't cost the company $1 million, it's almost like, who cares? We're working through this. We understand here's how we can get better. Here's our target to make up that loss. And here's how we're going to make it up. And we're going to all do it together and learn from it. And it becomes this move forward, solve the problem kind of thing. That old speech of just if you're not moving forward, you're moving backwards.
Yeah.
I always remember this from Army Ranger School. The big thing that an instructor would yell at the leader, because you get all these different leadership positions in the school, and you're in charge, and they're just like yelling, "What's your decision, Ranger?" And you're just like, "Okay." And they're like, "The only bad decision is no decision." And you become where like you start making decisions not just from instinct, but from training and value and mission and who, what, when, where, why, and what if. And then it's like, okay, that worked. There might be a better way to do it, but it worked. And we're not going to dwell on the better way to do it, except in a lesson learned or maybe an efficiency play, but it worked. We're not going to beat anybody up because it.
Yeah. And again, like we met the objective and move on.
Yeah.
Right. And if we need to do it again, we'll retro on it. And we don't, we can optimize, but that's the only reason why you want to do that. Right.
Yep. Celebrate the wins, talk about the failures, own them as a team, own them as a leader, and and then share about what they were. And then there's also the over a beer hanging out and like, man, we effed that up, but you know what, we got through it. And it's that gelling of a team that I think the best way to evaluate leaders is through chaos and extreme pressure. And when they go through it, celebrate what they're good at, and then start using people for their strengths. And I've worked for leaders that are like, oh, their weakness or developmental need, I need to push and focus on that. It's almost like, why? It's an awareness thing, but you know, I'm not gonna make a person who can't do pivot tables do spreadsheets just because they don't know how to do spreadsheets. And the person who loves doing spreadsheets, like, go knock them out. Like, you can do it. And that stuff is like really soaring with people's strengths as the team, and the team can really gel and move forward that way.
Now, so we talked a bunch about team and systems and process. So now, even in your world and in, like, again, field ops world, there's a lot of variability in talent. Can you get it? Do they get it? Want it? Do they have conviction around the problem they're trying to solve? But like, you know, I hear more and more and more, we can't get the people. So when you can't get the people, how do you achieve these kind of outcomes if you can't get the people?
It's the temporary or interim, like giving somebody a chance.
Yeah, because you scale up.
Yeah,
I know we chatted. You hire like 300 people at the end of December.
Yeah,
wrapping into February.
Yeah, you start hiring, like we outsource, they're hiring, but in the insource, you start hiring. So you take a senior agent who likes to teach people, is a good facilitator. All of a sudden, prior to the holiday peak season, they're actually going to be teaching people. They're not going to be answering the phones or answering emails. They're actually teaching people to do it. So they're teaching 25 people to do it. And then working as a temporary supervisor, advising those people. Now they're getting a taste for leadership. They're understanding where there are other problems in the process, and you really shouldn't have to look up 4 different places because one place works, or hit the refund button versus doing a manual refund, because the button, the easy button does it. The manual process is 7 steps. Use the button, just click it. It works. We know it works. But it's getting people in those stretch goals and stretch situations, taking someone who maybe doesn't deal with difficult customers well, and then putting them on the tier 2 support line where they end up having to, but they start evolving and start realizing, I have a decision power. I can give $25 in a refund, or I can give a full refund now. And listening to the circumstances, I'm going to make that decision. QA is evaluating, giving them feedback, like you're nailing it on the refunds, or, hey, you gave away a few you shouldn't have given away today. Let's talk about them. But it's like putting those people in those stretch goals and then finding where do they fit. The other piece I've found is letting people go from your teams and department into other teams and departments. And sometimes you get accused of building an empire. Like, John has people all over the company. Like, they're all coming out of his all over the company, and they're all like, and it's like, well, yeah, they want a promotion. The promotion isn't available in my world, but the promotion is available in client services or sales, and they're a good salesperson. Get them to where they're good at. And that idea that sometimes starting in the customer interface, but then moving up through the company becomes a really powerful cross-functional experience. And then when they're over there, they start saying things. I will say one more thing that we didn't do at FTD is everybody said, oh, the customer's important. And I'm like, where's it written when I arrived? And they're like, well, it isn't. It's just known. Eventually, I was able to convince our new CEO that customer centricity should be one of our core values, and it should be first. And the argument was, well, why should it be first? It's our business. We don't need to make it a core value. I'm like, yes, we do. Make customer centricity a core value. And then we all can live it and talk about it, and then use it to say, isn't customer centricity what it's all about? It's a core value. And now it's no longer an unwritten belief. It's actually inherent, and it becomes instinctive. And if people make decisions with customer centricity in mind, they aren't necessarily going to do the wrong thing. It's going to most likely be the right thing, right? And everybody gets it.
Yeah, the notion of customer centricity, I think it's a funny thing to say, and not it's a very easy thing to say, but don't fully understand what that means. Because like if you have let's say functional silos in the organization, right? Service delivery is a great example. I mean,
Yeah.
you've got field ops, you got leasing or revenue generation, operations, service delivery, accounting, all those things. Like those are all a customer would interact with every single one of those functions some way, shape, or form, or how. Um, but their experience is defined by that uh, functions ability to deliver that service by the way they deliver that service, instead of thinking about how does the customer consume those services, right? If you're thinking about service delivery, you're missing the point of customer centricity because it's about consumption, not about delivery.
Right.
Delivery is how I do it. Consumption is how you want to consume it. And that changes the perspective of what we're trying to do here. Because like you focus on the consumption of services versus the delivery of services, and you start to think, well, that's a few extra steps for that customer to go from accounting to to get a refund and all these things. And you start to kind of realize that the way that you deliver services may not be how they're consumed, and they could be incredibly inefficient, frictionful, and distasteful or unpractical. And so it's that being customer centric, it doesn't just mean the customer is always right. It means we
Right.
change the way we deliver services by the way the customer consumes them.
Yes. And it
And
can
that's like,
lead to additional just organic type sales and increase in lifetime value for that customer.
mhm,
But then all of a sudden, you're drinking a beer with the neighbor and somebody says, hey, I saw you were getting your gutters done. Oh, like I did. And it was amazing. These guys were
yeah,
flawless and they communicated really well. They showed up on time. And guess what this guy, and I used this with my neighbors. I said, the guy said, you're missing a couple snow stops. And,
mhm,
I'm just going to add them up there. I know you already paid your invoice in advance. I'm just going to add them up there. I don't care. Like, I'm not going to bill you
yeah,
for them. I got a couple extra
yeah,
pieces laying around. The paint's not going to match it perfectly, but they're on the backside of your house. Nobody's going to see them. So they
yeah,
put it up, but then I end up talking about that with the neighbors. Like, guess what they did? They put up these snow
yeah.
fences. You don't get snow on my back porch. And talking about it, turns out two neighbors actually, one came over when these guys were wrapping up and said, hey, I need to get on the schedule to do my house. Who do I call? And the kid at the company goes, don't call our sales team. I'll take care of it because
Yeah.
it becomes my sale. And so all of a
Yeah.
sudden this kid gets a sale and then another neighbor walks over and he hands him a business card. And all of a sudden this kid makes 2 additional sales that he gets. He's
Yeah.
bouncing as he's walking to his truck because he's so excited that he just probably made a few extra bucks on his own. But
Yeah.
he realizes that he had a happy customer in me because I wouldn't have referred him right that
Yeah.
openly if it weren't for how well he did or he and his team did on our house.
So then how do you, a couple questions, because that's interesting point. Because like one thing that I often argue for is that delighting customers is a really inefficient approach, but preventing them from pain can be something that we could all work towards and repeat and be repeatable. What I mean by that is like a 20-minute hold time that's consistent for everyone is collateral pain,
Right.
and that we're losing customers every single minute that goes by. A service request that stays open 4 days, 5 days, 6 days with no communication whatsoever, that's collateral pain. Showing up and maybe doing, tweaking the washer dryer and then fixing the food disposal, that may feel like you're delighting the customer, but you're systematically inflicting a lot of pain. So my question to you is, you spoke about the experience around the snow stops, which you were delighted by, right? In customer experience, in your experience, what is like, what do you want to acknowledge? Is it pain removal or is it delight? Like, were you guys in the delight business or are you in the pain removal business?
It's the pain removal, being as proactive as possible. If the
Mhm.
data's there and it's going to be painful, mitigate in advance or communicate in advance. Then it's no longer pain. Like
Mhm.
hold times. Like we did this exercise where we had a problem and we knew hold times were going to go up from 40 seconds on a service call to above a minute. And so we tested it. Like, how long are
Mhm.
people going to wait before they start hanging up or getting angry? We came up with 110 seconds, so almost 2 minutes. But at 110 seconds is where pain started happening. But from 40 to 110 was no different. So why are we
Interesting.
answering in 40 when we can be more efficient at 110 or 105?
Yeah.
Let's go to it. And it's the same like sales call, determining that 20 seconds is that's long on a sales. If somebody wants to buy something from you, answer the phone. And making them wait 20 seconds, you can get away with it, but above 20 seconds,
Oh, I got it. Yeah.
and they're going to go call somebody else and buy from somebody else. So how to keep that channel free and quick when somebody's buying, how to figure out, these are people that are buying by the phone. So let's answer the damn phone and sell to them so they don't click on something else or try to do it online with another customer or do a Google search and not get FTD because the Google somebody's paying for hits. And it's that side of just, it's not delight. It's like that old scale of 1 to 5 stars. And if you didn't give 5 stars, it's a failure. It's basically meet people's expectations in the most seamless, painless way, and they're happy. You don't have to do the extra delight unless it's something in an industry where a customer expects it. So a person staying at the Four Seasons expects that extra. But if I'm staying at the Holiday Inn Express, I want efficiency. I want a warm cinnamon bun in the morning and coffee, and I want to get on the road. I don't care about having slippers in my closet or the mint on the pillow. Because that's not what I'm expecting or paying for. So it's that experience by brand becomes important, and it's just meeting the expectations, exceeding competitors, being better than the competitors, and being consistent. And that ends up producing more revenue and more loyal customers that retain and subscribe and call you back and refer you.
It's the we used to talk about this in the process engineering side of things. It's never the average that kills you. It's the variability. Like, variability is when things are, the service guys, they're early, but the part's not there. Well, that's a miss, right? The parts they're early and the service guy's up there, that's a miss. The parts and the service guy both have to arrive at the same time.
Yes.
Right? That's it. But the variability of a stock out or a stock out or, a bad lead time, material lead time, that can create too much inventory, or the other side of it, too much inventory costs too much money. So carrying too much inventory, so you have like a never run out. Well, that's also, to your point, I think that's also an interesting kind of point. Like, 110 seconds is understanding what the thresholds of optimization are. Because like carrying infinite amount of inventory, that doesn't work either, because it goes obsolete, is perishable, all those things. So you got to figure out what is that sway between in order to achieve the objective of that process.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah. In manufacturing, like the part that it sits and has dust on it is the 5th part, but the 4 are constantly moving in and out. So then the right number is actually 4. And it's getting to there by, I always remember when I went into manufacturing for the short time and how we did the transformation there, it became a data analysis. We actually created a person who all they did all day long was inventory management of the parts. And that's exactly what you're describing is what they did. What is the optimized number of the right to have on hand? What are the lead times and the flows so that we're never out, but we're also not backing up space in the warehouse, especially with big manufacturing parts that cost $20,000 because then it gets real damn expensive to have that part on hand. But what fits in what airplane and how can you fly it there? Or do you have to send it by truck and how many days is that? But getting down to the nitty gritty of each one and then coming up with the optimized number.
When you take back, and we covered a ton today. When you take back at the kind of like the career that you had, and I mean, and appreciate you for sharing the stories in the military. Also, it's so fascinating. But like, what advice did you give yourself, or what advice would you give yourself, or someone who's looking for career guidance on terms of like getting these problems solved, activating the transformation? Like, I'm a transformation guy. That's like nobody wants to have that person. So, but you get to hell yes, because you have this career of transforming those organizations, achieving these massive outcomes. So how do you, what advice do you give around that?
Is don't give up. Is understand the goal. The near-term goal is superficial and goes away. What is the midterm and long-term goals? Does the strategy align to it? And can you get there? And how do you communicate and drive the team towards that goal while not getting caught up in those peaks and valleys, the overreactions, the chaos, learning from them, but sticking to the ultimate plan of growth? Like, for example, growth is we're going to grow, we're not going to delay it. That's one, the main piece of advice. The other is don't allow others to dictate your timelines. And understand the timelines, but don't let somebody say, oh, we're going to delay because. That, especially when I work with IT partners or financial partners, we're like, oh, we're going to delay. Like, why? Why are we delaying? Oh, well, we want more time to develop or do QA. Like, no, you don't. And here's why we're sticking to the schedule. And if we can't stick to the schedule, this is where accountability is. And we're going to go communicate to the world, hey, we aren't going to make our deadline because IT's behind and they're behind because of this. And we're all going to have transparency and understand. So it's not letting someone dictate your timeline without communication and understanding. And then you can keep the time. Then you can stick the timeline. And I always remember that moment on a military op where we would synchronize watches, like you do in the movies. Like, that's real world. Like, you all
like
sit
Mission
there,
Impossible, the old school Mission Impossible.
your watch and you say what's going to happen and when, and then you literally come up with what's the leeway, because time on target, because you never know. Not everybody might arrive at the same time. Somebody may land in a swamp in their parachute, and it just becomes this, okay, we know what we're doing. We know where we're going to go. And so it's that coordination and expectation setting.
Wow. That's awesome. Who should we chat with next? This is, if we keep this conversation going, who should we chat with next on the show?
I think you need to talk to either a CTO that understands service execution and how technology can make that easier, not only on the planners and the dispatchers, but the actual field. Like, where does technology help them and not become a cumbersome extra additional headache add-on? Like, I got to enter this in a log. Like, the stuff that old school, I got to enter this in a log. Well, how can technology do it for you? Meaning knowing where you're at and at what time stamp. That kind of stuff. A technology person could be good for the service industry to hear from.
What kind of company would that be? Just so I can go do some hunting.
Any of the service industries. So, gosh.
So like a Ritz-Carlton kind of thing?
Yeah. Or plumbing, or like there's all kinds of things out there that they're time on target and they're delivering something, but there's a whole bunch of moving parts because they got to dispatch a truck in the right sequence.
You know what? I know the CTO of an airline. That would be a good one.
That would be a good one, because that airline is notorious for, I mean, we all put their service under a microscope, and I like giving advice to airline people all the time. I'm like, why don't you explain to people what, give them the expectation you're going to hold for 10 hours. Like, just tell them up. Oh, we don't want to tell people they're holding for 10 hours, but they're holding for 10. Just tell them up front, give them an alternative. I love when companies like Apple Technical Services, they understand what you're calling about, what piece of equipment you're calling about, but they also let you schedule an appointment, which is really hold time, right? Like, if I schedule an appointment for 4 hours from now, that's literally 4 hours of hold. But the truth is, I'm scheduling the appointment. And if you have a way to execute at, for me, 8 p.m. tonight, they call me back and go, we're here for your appointment. I'm like, wow, that was brilliant. I didn't have to wait for 4 hours.
Well, the thing, so I'm going to counter that, because like we have a schedule of solutions. This is how we counter that to our customers. Is like, but they're waiting is a verb. Yeah. Right. Rescheduling is a fact. It's an event. And so, like, as long as you're not scheduling, like you're not consuming their time, which is the on hold time, then it's okay. Just like your doctor's appointment story.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. We've mutually agreed to to reconvene at a different time.
Yeah. Yep.
Right. And that's something that's different.
And it's collaborative, right? So it's both
Yeah.
parties are collaborating to the ultimate solution.
My time's valuable, your time's valuable. Let's agree on a different time and let's do that way. Right.
Yeah.
Rather than I'm gonna consume and expense your time because I'm not available right now.
Right.
And so it's like that's I think that you can agree that the customer is suffering through downtime and that is that expense there, but I'd just like to reposition it as, hey, they don't want to be on hold. That's wasting their time.
Yeah.
Right. So let's get rid of that because that's where the anxiety. They can do something different, right? And callbacks are awesome. I mean, they're great. They work great all the time, So this has been great. So I'm going to hunt somebody down. That's a great idea, especially trying to focus in on field ops, service ops, right, and how that all gets executed. See what else. How can people get a hold of you? People want to hear more about John. What's the best way to get a hold of you?
LinkedIn is probably the top way. Look me up on LinkedIn. Reach out there. I'm on it all the time. I'm actually looking for the next leadership gig, so I'm very focused on finding what that next organization that needs to be transformed, and then convincing them why they need to hire me to do it. But it's that's probably the easiest way. Hopefully we get a lot of people listen to this, and I know I'm going to send it out. And the gig. Yeah,
we'll get some amplification for sure. Cool. Yeah, we'll get that. Speaking of finding you on LinkedIn, if anyone's again checking out the show on LinkedIn after the fact, again, as I said earlier, put some comments in there. We'll get notified there, and we can jump in the conversation.
Yeah.
If you're following on YouTube, comments there are always awesome, and on Spotify or Apple, those comments are also they make it important, make it easy to find. This has been an incredible conversation today. Super insightful. I love chatting. Last time we chatted for like 2.5 hours.
I know. I was afraid that was going to happen again today, but at least we kept it under an hour and 6 minutes.
We kept it an hour and change. You got it. Well, thank you everyone for listening today. John, thank you so much for all your input and insight. And everyone have a great rest of your week here and take care. Hang tight, John.